Miami Beach, Florida, and I specialize in a technique known as stretch therapy. It's a combined technique of AIS, active isolated stretching, has a few parts ki-hara, resistance stretching, and I also use a machine called a DMS, a deep muscle stimulator, to warm up muscle tissue before I stretch it with my clients. Now in this video we're going to learn about how to stretch your rotator cuff to recover from sports injury. Even you can use this to recover from certain types of rotator cuff surgery when your muscles are tight after. And I myself have torn partial tears in both of my rotator cuffs, and for a few years I couldn't even lift up my hands above my shoulders without being in pain. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the stretching. And I want to urge everyone to pay very close attention to this, because this technique needs to be performed exactly as we do it here together. Otherwise you could be putting yourself in risk for injury. Okay? So we have here a 7-foot nautical rope. And I would highly recommend you get one of these and do not use any resistance bands, do not use anything too stiff. I know some people use a technique with almost a broom handle or something like that, but please do, if you're going to use this technique, go out, go to a nautical store, get a rope like this for just a few dollars, and it's going to help you not just in this stretch, but in further videos that we do together. You're going to see the benefit of using this rope. So let's go ahead and unravel our rope. And you're going to make it parallel like that, loop in your left hand. We're going to start with our right arm here. So AIS is known as active isolated stretching. It was developed by Aaron Matz, who lives and practices out in Sarasota, Florida. I had the extreme pleasure of actually going out there and learning the technique from him personally, and I found it to be extremely effective, and I use it with all my clients. I work with it every single day now. Okay, so first we're going to stretch our internal rotators by providing external rotation. Now, have the rope completely halved. You're going to wrap around your thumb right there and go around just a few inches inside your elbow there, like so. You're going to lift up your arm on a right angle, and you're going to make sure, and there's a few different key points you have to pay attention to, is you don't want your arm out of the socket like that. You don't want it slouched over and kind of way out here. You want it pulled in. You want your scapula more or less contracted, just enough to keep your joint in the socket there as we're rotating. We don't want to rotate and come out of the socket and lose the proper stretch. So up and around, you're going to have your elbow just a few inches in front of your body, say like 1.5 inches, 2 inches in front of your shoulder, and then you're going to drop it down 1 inch or 2, okay? So the good thing is maybe 10 degrees forward, 10 degrees down. You're going to take a deep breath, choke up the rope, very, very, very gently. You're going to rotate back, keeping that joint in the socket most importantly. Okay? And I've improved my rotation with this very good. And then you're going to release it. Okay, there's a certain rhythm we're going to do here. It's going to be inhale, exhale, and you're going to move, rotating your arm by itself. I can let go of this. I'm going to rotate by myself and just very gently assist with the rotation, like so. And once you get to the deepest part, very gently, count 1, 2, and release. It's also a very good idea to bring your arm all the way down and fully relax in between repetitions. We're going to go again. I would say 5 to 7 repetitions is ideal. In the beginning, maybe a few will exhaust your muscles, because as we're providing a stretch for the internal rotators here, we are strengthening our external rotators by providing external rotation into position. Good. And 2. Another thing to note is the name active isolated stretching is we are isolating our rotator cuff, but it is active. So, like I said, we're building the opposing muscle groups in this. So let's get that shoulder in there pretty well. Make sure your shoulder doesn't shrug up or shrug down too much. You want everything pretty level. Good. And take a deep breath. Look at that, already feeling really good, adding a little bit of degrees on there. So let's go through the repetitions now. And not forcefully, very gently. 1, 2, and release. Man, that feels really good. Opening that all up in there. And again, reset your position. If you find your rotators to be very tight and strong, if you're a muscular individual, you want to choke up there so you have more leverage. But those of you who may not even need the rope, you just provide external rotation there and get a good internal rotation stretch. Yeah, I can feel my external rotators even warming up. They're getting really nice and warm and strong while we're stretching the internals. Good. Very nice. Oh, there it is. Yeah. 1, 2. Perfect. Just like that. Remember, let it down all the time. The reason we let it down in between stretches is because we want the blood flow to get in there. And very, very good. I'm losing a little bit of compensating there, so I adjusted, make sure that my scapula is contracted, the shoulder joint is in there, the bones in the joint. Good. So that's feeling pretty good there. Let's go ahead and move on to the other side. Right, there's a few things that go on in between repetitions while we don't hold it. We don't want to deprive the muscle of oxygen. All right, so where you got that rope wrapped around your hand, both of the ropes come around the back, underneath the triceps, a few inches in from the elbow. Right? Good. So let's set that up. Make sure there's no compensation in the shoulders. Take a deep breath and exhale. And you want to make sure that your elbow is also not moving, it's just rotating. And that's 1. And 1, 2. Good. That was a good one. So I'm going to bring the arm down, pump some blood into it. The first one was kind of like a little warm-up, so I didn't really need to take my arm down for that one. Good. And everything, a couple 10 degrees in front, 10 degrees down. Make sure your arm's not over here, it's out there. I would say a good right angle, if not, maybe 5 degrees out to the side there. Okay. And deep breath in. Exhale again. That's a good one. This side really needs it for me. 1 and 2. Good. So you want to go as deep as you can, and not to the point of where it's too painful, but just ease on into it, and then you start feeling slow down. And then when you get to the point where you can't really go much more, that's when you start counting. 1, 2. Now, in AIS, Aaron likes to say about 1.5 to 2 seconds. I find that to be absolutely perfect timing. No longer, no shorter. Good. Just always think about that timing as you go into it. Nice rhythm. Exhale. Rotating with the arm, providing a slight bit of assistance here. And I'm still going right there. About 1, 2. Perfect. And releasing. Very nice. Good. Pumping some blood in there. We're getting the lactic acid out. We're getting the cellular debris out of there. And at the same time, pumping fresh blood and oxygen to the muscle so it can properly recover in between stretches. Okay. Deep breath again. Oh yeah, get in there. And 1, 2. Perfect. Now we're just going to do one set on each side here together, but I encourage you to come back to the video, follow it multiple times. Ideally 5 to 7 repetitions and 2 to 3 sets. And space out, give yourself about 5-10 minutes between each set. Let your arm fully recover. You can go do something else. Try not to work out in between it because you don't want to aggravate it, but just relax, grab a drink of water or whatever is best for you. Okay? So bring that back in position. We'll get a couple more here before moving to stretching our external rotators. Okay? Keeping that joint in the socket. Right? And the ball in the socket. And exhale. Good. 1, 2. Perfect. Now even if you're adding like 1 degree or half a degree or even not even getting anywhere on this, it is going to make a difference in your everyday life. Because a few degrees here is huge in preventing rotator cuff injury, and it's also, as we mentioned earlier, recovering from injuries. This is helping rebuild your muscle fibers. You know, imagine this is your, you know, your muscle, say your infraspinatus, right? And you tore part of it. So you got a partial tear maybe on the upper side, right? And you just have these muscles, you know, a few strands of muscle fibers down here. You got to rebuild them. You got to rebuild the whole muscle together. Now, you can get surgery to fix that immediately, but with a partial tear, you don't really, it's not necessary to get surgery. So what you do is you train it, you train it, you train it, and eventually the muscle fibers start growing back. Scar tissue, as you stretch the muscle, it starts loosening up, just like any other tissue in the body. Scar tissue will recover and will actually get back to a relatively normal position. You know, I met a guy one time. He wasn't a client of mine, but he was in a fire, and his whole chin and chest burned to a crisp, and they had to surgically attach his pectoralis muscle to his chin, and he was like this. Over time, he could have just stayed like that for the rest of his life, but over time, he worked with a trainer and stretched out that scar tissue to the point where he can have his head up straight. He can even go like this. He can move it around, you know? So he may be still a little bit limited, but I saw him maybe 15 years after his initial operation and an accident there. And that really served me as a great example of the flexibility of scar tissue over time. I mean, yeah, it was painful, and yes, it did take a longer time than stretching out traditional bodily tissue, but it is something that can be done, and it's something that I've done it with my own arms, because I know I've injured them more than once before I knew how to train my rotator cuffs, and they weren't strong, they were weak and tight. So let's go ahead and finish up these two. Go ahead and take a deep breath. Exhale. Keeping that joint in the socket, sitting upright. Good. Even I find myself kind of compensating sometimes, so it's just important to know where your body's at, what you should be doing. 1, 2, really good on that one. Now you notice I was talking for a little while there. When I went back to it, it was much easier. So just like working out, we are working out the opposing muscle group. It doesn't need breaks, so that's why we say 5 to 7 repetitions. All right, let's do one more here. And exhale. Oh man, that's a good one here. And 1, 2, perfect. So that concludes the demonstration and walkthrough of our external rotation, stretching on the internal rotators. And now on to the next one. So we're going to do our external rotator stretch by rotating internally, starting with my right arm. Possibly if you're mirroring me in the video, maybe your left arm. So follow me carefully here. Double up the rope, hang it over your thumb, right there in the webbing of your thumb. And watch carefully. You're going to wrap it around your arm like so. Okay? And what that's going to do is allow us to give a little leverage and internally rotate our shoulder in the joint, just like that. 1 or 2 pounds of added force there to help you assist in the rotation. Okay? So I'm going to show you that one more time. Double up the rope, hang it over the thumb. Make sure that the ropes are parallel. You're going to drop it, loop it around a few inches on the bottom side of your triceps, and it's going to come around like that. Okay? Make sure the rope is not crossed anywhere. You want it to be parallel throughout the whole movement. Now, similar position on this one. Your arm is going to be, your elbow rather, is going to be a few inches in front of your shoulder, and just maybe an inch or 2 down. Just say 10 degrees, 10 degrees. Okay? Now, on this one, sit upright, don't compensate, make sure you keep the shoulder joint all together there. Slight contraction of the rhomboid, keeping the scapula in the right place. You don't want it too much, but just a slight bit to keep everything together. And fingers pointed out. Rotating, keeping that arm, ooh yeah, keeping that upper arm right where it is, rotating around. This one is extremely easy to compensate. You see where I'm at? I could easily go like that and compensate all the way around. We don't want to do that. Take a break for a second. You're gonna get really good at wrapping this around your arm because you have to do it every time. So it may be a little complicated in the beginning, but you get it. So here, wrap it around, loop it around, get it all together. I know there's a lot of moving parts and pieces to this one, but when you get it, it's going to help you a tremendous amount. Okay. Right there, 10 degrees down, 10 degrees forward. Deep breath in, exhale. Now you're rotating with the power of your arm into the movement and assisting just, I say 1 or 2 pounds. I mean, I think it's more like 1 or 2 ounces of hardly anything, almost just my arm weight. There we go. And release. Yeah, that's powerful. Many people only stretch one way or the other. It's important to do both. Okay? And again, we're doing internal rotation here, right? So what are we working here? We're working our internal rotators and we're stretching our external rotators. Ready? And oh yeah, I'm feeling that in my infraspinatus up there. This is really good for anyone who has had infraspinatus. Infraspinatus injuries. The more vigorous your injury, obviously, the more gentle you need to be with all of these movements. In the beginning, you may only be able to do 1 or 2, if that. And if not, lose the rope, because you should just be doing this. Just really, really gentle in the beginning, and really, really gentle both ways. Okay. You can also, without the rope, you can hold on to your shoulder, and you can bring it down. You can just make sure you're not compensating. Okay, that's what we do when I assist someone in doing this movement. I am the rope. Okay, back to this, a few more. Finish up on this side, we'll get to the other side. Okay, deep breath in. Beautiful, beautiful. Feeling really good. Yeah, there we go. Make sure the shoulder's not popping up. Keep control of the scapula in the back by contracting the rhomboids. If you don't know what the rhomboids are, you shouldn't be doing this. You should be looking those up, finding out what the scapula is too, and learning all the names of your rotator cuff muscles. That feels really good. Now for me, my infraspinatus is tight up there, so it's feeling like a beautiful stretch. There we go. Thumb, wrap. Don't get lazy. Put your arm down every time. Good. When you get lazy with this, you're not going to see results. You're only going to be going through the movements and trying to rush through, and you're probably going to injure yourself. Ooh, man, that feels good. And be in a worse place off than you were before you were trying to watch this video and figure out how to stretch out your rotator cuff and fix your injury or whatever pain or impingement you're having. Okay? That's good enough for the right side. Moving on to the left. Loop it up in there. Watch me now. Wrap it around. Holding it. Make sure there's no loose. One side's not loose than the other. I also encourage you, use a mirror. Now I have a mirror right here, and when I was doing my right arm, I could see exactly where I'm compensating and adjust. I don't have one on my left side, but it would be a good idea to face a mirror or be on a 45-degree angle, or have one right next to you, so you can always keep accountability for your joints and what your muscles are doing, okay? You want to make sure every single piece of this is moving correctly, otherwise you may not get it, you might not get the stretch, okay? You may not see the benefit. In the beginning, those of you who never stretch your rotators, those of you who work out a lot, well, it's good. And 1, 2, very nice. And again, just assisting very gently with the top one. I think I'm giving a little bit too much strength there. Oof. I'm going to ease up a little bit. I can see it. Next one. Here we go. No compensation, really gently. I'm going to choke down because I'm putting a little bit too much strength in that. I'm using the strength of the rotator in the arm. You can go down as far as 90 degrees there with your shoulder. You know, if this is level, you can go 90. And go ahead, bring it down. Ooh, man, yeah, that's good. Just very gently. I'm getting a little compensating. So my shoulder coming up there, right? Adjust and keep going. 1, 2. It's feeling really good. Feeling my internal rotators there work a lot too. I know I don't work them out enough, but doing this kind of work definitely helps strengthen and stretch your rotator cuffs. Okay. Both ways. That's really good. Choke down a little bit much. And 1, 2, floating back there, adjusting. There we go. Perfect. when you get it right, you get in this sweet spot where you just feel like very crisp, very nice, even stretch of your, in this one, considering the external rotators, and you feel a nice workout on the internal rotators. So here we go again. Let's make this the last one, okay? So level up. Again, I don't have a mirror on the side, so I may be compensating and not even know it. So make sure you do it in front of the mirror. And exhale. Yeah, 10 degrees forward, 10 degrees down, and then the hand 5 or 10 degrees out from there. Very good. So that's good. I felt a little more strengthy on that side. I think my internal rotator is a little more weak on my left than my right, but that's the way it is. Usually the body is, it's not perfectly symmetrical, especially with the legs. Everyone has one dominant and submissive leg, as I say. So that concludes our internal and external rotation, strengthening, and stretching. So keep in mind, as you're rotating internally, you're stretching your external rotators, you're strengthening your internal rotators. And as you rotate externally, you're strengthening your external rotators and you're stretching your internal rotators. Okay? So thanks for watching. Feel free to browse the rest of our YouTube videos. We're going to have a lot more up pretty soon, addressing all sorts of sports injuries, everyday life pains and aches around the neck, the lower back, and up next, we're going to make a just strengthening portion for your rotator cuffs that's also going to help very much with your rotator cuff injuries or just impingements or whatever you have going on. So please follow up. Thanks for watching. Again, I'm Gavin Ravens, personal trainer and stretch therapist here in Miami Beach, Florida. It's a beautiful sunny day out here and I love living here. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.